Okay, this video is supposed to be a quick tutorial on sine, cosine, and tangent. So I have my angle, and I'm going to refer to this angle. I'm not going to use the other angle that's up there, just this angle. It's the one I'm going to be focusing on. And with that angle, I'm going to label my triangle. So based on that angle, well, it doesn't matter. This side is always the hypotenuse. But based on that angle, this side is across from it, so that would be the opposite side. And based on this angle, this side right next to it would be the adjacent. We have three trig functions we have to keep track of. And I'm going to write down my mnemonic to help me remember my three trig functions. I use what's called so, ka, toa. And here's what that means. So SOHCAHTOA, I write it out on my paper whenever I need it. SOHCAHTOA. So I know that sine of an angle is always equal to the opposite side length divided by the hypotenuse side length. There you go. Ka is always the cosine of an angle, and that's always equal to the adjacent side length divided by the hypotenuse. And tangent, toa actually, which is tangent of an angle, is always equal to the opposite side length divided by the adjacent side length. And that's the three trig functions with reference to a right triangle. This is called right triangle trig, so we must always have a right triangle when we do this trig or use these trig functions. So let's have an example. So I look at this example. I want to do Pythagorean's theorem, but I don't have enough information to do Pythagorean's theorem. So I guess I'm left with trig. To do the trig, I would go so, ka, toa. Now that I have that, I'm going to label my sides. Here's a 90-degree angle. This has to be the hypotenuse over here. So this is my angle that I'm going to be focusing on right here. So that over there is across from it. So this is my opposite. And this side right here is right beside it. So this is my adjacent. So what do I need to find this value of x? So to find the value of x, this is my adjacent side. This is my opposite side. I need to use adjacent and opposite. So this is opposite hypotenuse, so I'm not going to use sine. Adjacent hypotenuse, I don't know the hypotenuse, so I'm not going to use cosine. Toa. Toa is gives me the trig function I'm going to use. Tangent. So I know that when I take tangent of 37 degrees, that will equal the opposite side length, which is 23, divided by the adjacent side length, which is x. And it's always handy to have a calculator. Make sure your calculator's in degrees, because we don't know any other way to measure angles yet. So I would go tangent of 37 to get 0.753. Or I could round that to 4. So I'll go 7.7536. How's that? Equals 23 over x. Okay. Well, I don't know about you, but I like it when I have a fraction equal to a fraction. So I'm going to turn this left side into a fraction, just dividing by 1. So now I can cross multiply. So when I cross multiply, I get 23 times 1 equals 0.7536x. To solve this equation, to get 1 by an x, all I have to do is divide both sides by 0.7536. Some students kind of skip this step. They just do it all in their calculator, and that's perfectly fine. 0.7536. So 23 divided by 0.7536 gives me 30 point, it's hard to see, that's my pausing here, 30.5-ish is my value for x. And since I have a units of feet here, my x will have the units of feet also. So I'll put feet on that really quick. And there's my answer right there. Now, how did I get it? Make sure you write out SOHCAHTOA, figure out what trig function, and then make your equation, and you're off and running. So the next one, got to figure out my trig function. So I, again, start at whoops, my H was a little low there. TOA. SOHCAHTOA. 47 degrees is the angle I'm keying off of here. So right off the bat, this is my hypotenuse. This would be my opposite. And this would be right next to 47, so this is my adjacent. Now, I know that I need hypotenuse and adjacent. That's the only two places where I have something. 47 for hypotenuse, x for adjacent. So adjacent hypotenuse. This is opposite hypotenuse? No. Adjacent hypotenuse. So it can't be TOA. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. I don't have opposite. So I got to use cosine. So I'll do that. Cosine of my angle, 47 degrees, must equal the adjacent side, which I don't know is x, all over my hypotenuse, which is 47. Okay, so then you quickly go cosine of 47 in your calculator to get 0.68, and I'm going to round that to 2 there. And I have x over 47. Again, I like to cross multiply, so I get 1x equals, and cross there, and 47 times that gives me, 32.054-ish. There we go. And if my units are feet again, my units here will be feet also. There we go. I just used trig to figure out a length. Let's try it again. Again, same procedure. Write out SOHCAHTOA. And I label my sides. So this is hypotenuse. 54 degrees is my angle, so this would be opposite. And this would be adjacent. Someday I'll have to use this angle up here, So, COHCAHTOA. Well, I have opposite hypotenuse. So opposite hypotenuse right off the bat. Don't need those two. So sine is 54 degrees. Sine of 54 degrees is equal to the opposite side length, which is 20, divided by the hypotenuse, which is x. So I go sine of 54 degrees, and I get 0.809-ish. And 20 over x on this side. Again, same thing. Cross multiply. So that cross gives me 0.809x equals 20 times 1, which is 20. Divide by 0.809 because I want to make a 1 by the x. And I get x equals 20 divided by 0.809. And I get 24.7. And what are my units on this one? Feet. There we go. I guess they're all feet so far. So that's what I got. Let's try one more. Now this one, I got two angles. And two angles are okay. You just have to make a choice. Which angle do you want to use? So I've been using the bottom angle for a long time. Let's use the top angle. It doesn't matter which angle you use, but you got to choose. So now that I chose that top angle, that doesn't affect this. This is always the hypotenuse. But now this is my opposite because it's across from my angle, and this is adjacent over here because it's right by my angle. So COHCAHTOA, I have opposite and adjacent. Opposite, adjacent. Okay, no hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. It's got to be tangent. So tangent of my angle, which is 48 degrees, is equal to the opposite side length, which is x, divided by the adjacent side length, which is 32. So tangent of 48 degrees, I'll quickly calculate that. And I get 1.11, well, I could do one more 1, I guess, if I round, equals x over 32. Now, a fraction over a fraction is easy to deal with. We can cross multiply. So this cross would just give me 1x, and my other cross would give me all that times 32. And I get 35.54. And again, my units are in feet. There we go. That's sine, cosine, and tangent. And hopefully it works out as good for you as hopefully it worked out for me. See you in class.